everybody, it's Christina from Redefine Creative, and I am back for the first Friday of the month with another episode of I Double Dare You. So this is where I am working on a collaboration with Laura Alberts, and we provide a challenge to each other as well as to all of you. And then we come back on the third Friday of the month and complete the other person's challenge. So my challenge today to all of you, and especially to Laura, is to use some stamps to create the major embellishments on your layout. So if you'll notice when I kind of showed you the supplies on my desk, I don't really have any embellishments out there at the moment because I want to use stamps to create the majority of my embellishment, and that's what I want you guys to do as well. So the reason for this challenge is because Laura and I were talking the other day, and she was talking about how she doesn't use stamps nearly enough and needs to get them out. And I was like, ding, 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 this is going to be your challenge. So I grabbed these Stay Sweet paper pads. I have the 12 by 12 and the 6 by 8. And so I'm going to use those to create this layout. And so all I am doing from the 6 by 8 is pulling a bunch of the more subtle B-side patterns in colors that will match my layout. And then from the 12 by 12, I pulled the black with the polka dots and then that bright colored stripe. And I'm going to use those to create my background. I also have a couple of doilies, and so far that's really it, and my stamp set. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these 6 by 8 pattern papers and match them up with colors of ink from my absolute favorite, Catherine Pooler. So if you haven't been here a while, or if you're brand new, welcome, and you will hear all about how obsessed I am with Catherine Pooler ink. And so I am matching up Catherine Pooler ink to all of the pattern papers that I want to use. And I am going to stamp the little Instagram looking camera onto all of those pattern papers. And I'm just looking for some extra colors here. That's why I'm off screen for a second. Because, you know, if you don't have all the colors of ink, what are you thinking? So I'm going to use those to stamp that little Instagram or Instax looking camera from this Doodlebug travel stamp set. And so I'm not doing anything related to travel, but I just loved the look of this little camera. And as soon as I picked up the stamp set, I knew that I was going to create this kind of a look. So I'm just going to ink my stamps and stamp on each of the colors. And I go through and show you a few, and I do clean my stamp off after every different color, just like a good girl is supposed to. So I'm going to show you a few, and then I'm going to finish up off screen, and I do go back in with my scissors, and I'm going to fussy cut all of those little cameras because, like I said in the challenge, I want you guys to use stamping to create the major embellishments for your layout. So last week I posted a stamping layout where I used the stamps to create a major background element. So this time, instead of creating the background, we are flipping the script and creating all of the embellishments. And so these inks are super vibrant and really, really fun, and they're going to show up great on all of these pattern papers that I have. I'm going to use this fuchsia one on this purple pattern paper. And you know, I am still a purple fan, you guys. There just isn't enough purple in the scrapbooking world for me, but it's starting to show up more. So we can be happy about that. All right, I am going to take a piece of leftover white cardstock and add just a thin little border to separate my two pattern papers. I felt like it needed that little pop of white. I do end up almost completely covering up that entire strip by the time I am done. So there is that. But it was a good intention that I wanted to break up that space between my two pattern papers a little bit. And I would do that again. I just happened to cover it all up this time. So I am working with a picture of myself today, which is not my usual content at all whatsoever. I do not like getting my picture taken, and I definitely don't like scrapbooking pictures of myself. But I'm pushing myself and trying to go outside my comfort zone a little bit. So it is a black and white picture, and then it has, it was a filter that I was using, so it has these bright colored sunglasses over the top. And so I have one doily that I'm going to put behind this picture of myself. And then I'm going to use these little Instax cameras along this border. And so originally I'm thinking I'm just going to make this little zigzag. I'm going to show some of that white cardstock. It's going to work perfectly. They go across my layout and look super stinking cute. This stamp set is adorable, you guys. If you guys haven't checked out the new Doodlebug stamps, I don't work for Doodlebug. They don't pay me. They don't send me free stamps, nothing like that. But these are just stinking adorable stamps, you guys. Their stamp sets are so cute. So I'm going to add this second piece of a doily in this bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to create a little camera stack on top of that as my like major embellishment spot down there. And so I'm going to take some like dimensional foam squares and put one behind each one of those cameras and then just stack them all up. And I think it looks really, really cute. And so you guys will have to pardon my nails on the screen. I was helping my daughter pick out like nail polish colors, and so I have one painted nail, and you can totally see that on screen, which was not my intention. So sorry about that, guys. But I'm going to stack up all these little cameras down here in this corner. And so that leads me to decide that along my photo border at the top, I also need to zigzag overlap the cameras and put some of this foam like dimensional adhesive behind those as well, so that it kind of creates some consistency. So this is where that white cardstock that I was so well intentioned in putting in there is going to disappear. But it's still there in my mind. I know that it's there underneath all the layers of this layout. And so I'm going to go ahead and add some matting to my photo. So I'm going to start with just a really thin border of white cardstock, like I almost always do. And then I pulled out this really bright blue piece of pattern paper, and it doesn't really go with all the rest of the colors on the layout. But I didn't like the turquoise. I wanted to put this purple behind my photo, but it wasn't quite bright enough. So I'm going to pull in the tiniest little photo mat that I think you've probably ever seen. It is just going to be a very, very tiny, tiny photo mat because it just breaks up the color a little bit between the white and the purple, because that purple pattern paper isn't solid. It's mainly white. So I wanted something to break it up just a little bit. And this photo mat's going to be a little bit bigger. So you can just barely see a pop of that blue. It's almost like I just inked the edges instead of having a full pattern paper border. But that's where that pattern paper got tucked in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish up my border of little cameras up here. And this is really going to come together pretty quickly from this point forward. So I don't want to do a ton of embellishing because I want my stamping to really kind of take center stage. At this point, I have just all of those cameras. I have one camera left over there, and it's going to end up making it onto this layout. So you'll see that here in a second where I end up getting it included. But I'm just kind of cutting off those little edges where the camera is overlapped the outside of my layout. And then I'm going to go to these Paige Evans stickers because there's a word on there that says dreamer that's in all these rainbow colors, and it matches perfectly with the embellishments I've picked as well as with my glasses. And so I'm going to layer that along the bottom of my photo, and then I'm just going to take some of these heart stickers and scatter them throughout my embellishments. So I'm not really creating any new type of embellishment areas or anything so far. I am just adding to what is already there. So I'm letting my stamping still take center stage, but adding just a few little pops of color and detail. And so then I'm going to keep going through there and see if there's anything else I want to use. And I end up deciding I want a few of the phrases on the layout as well. There's one that says chasing, and then there's one that says new adventures. So I'm going to kind of butcher that sticker and cut it apart because I just want adventures, because I want it to say chasing adventures. And I think it's going to go underneath my photo, and I changed my mind. And it's going to end up going on the very bottom corner down here, underneath all of those cameras. And I'm just going to make the edges a little bit wonky down there. And so then I go back to see if there's any other ones I want to use. And I'm going to take two and layer them into all of my cameras across the top. So one of them that's going to go right there says let's get lost. And then there's another little green one that says carefree. And that one's going to go underneath this other area of my little cameras. And I seriously, guys, have you watched me keep trying to put something under the word dreamer? Like, it just keeps happening. And so I'm like, nope, the layout's not done. It needs something down there by the word dreamer. So you know how sometimes when you're creating a page, you get like this idea in your head, like there's got to be something down here, and you don't know what it's going to be, but you just know that there needs to be something. So this is where I finally go ahead and grab an embellishment pack. So I haven't had any die cuts, any ephemera, nothing like that so far. And the layout's almost done, so I'm just gonna grab it to see if I can add any little details. And there's a little ticket in there that says Adventure Admit 1 in pink, and I think that is super cute. So I know that I wanna get that in there somewhere. There's also all these little hearts, and I'm like, okay, well, I could add a few more hearts. That's no big deal. I have that ampersand that I tucked under my photo, but it's not actually gonna stay there. I grabbed that little word fun, and I thought that looked really cute up there above my cameras. So that is going to make the cut and stay. So I'm just kind of playing around. Like, I just have it in my head. Something has to be down there in that spot. And so as I'm trying to figure that out and playing around with it, I decided to add that one last camera up over the top edge of my photo. And I feel like that kind of makes it look a little bit more finished. I am going to get that word fun up there. You can see the ampersand went away, but I'm still not convinced that something doesn't need to be by Dreamer. So I go ahead and end up moving it down to this other edge of the word, and I feel like that creates a little more flow throughout the layout, so I'm happy with that. So I go ahead and take that little ticket, and then I put my little heart on a foam adhesive, and then I had this little turquoise flower that I thought I could get in here somewhere. And by the time I squeeze it under there, you can't even tell it's a flower. But it gives a little home to my embellishments. And so before I drive myself crazy and add anything else, I'm going to call it done. So your challenge and the challenge for Laura to bring back here in a couple of weeks and present to you is to dig out those stamps and use them to create your own embellishments. So you can add a few other embellishments, but really try to make those stamped images be the highlight. And I can't wait to see what you make. I'll see you soon. Bye.